Hi there, my name's Lena and welcome to my garden. I'm gardening in Zone 8 in the Pacific Northwest of Washington State. We've had such a rainy spring, you guys, which is not abnormal for us to get this kind of rain because we're so close to the Pacific Ocean. But what I think is a little abnormal for me this year is the fact that we're going into June already, like today is June 9th, 2022, and rain hasn't really stopped. So while us human beings may not enjoy this rain as much, my plants in my garden are looking absolutely gorgeous and they're super lush. So obviously they're loving it. And I haven't had to water my garden at all this year. So I consider that kind of lucky on my part. In today's video, I'd like to show you my Japanese dappled willows that are going on their 4th growing season. Last year, I think right around this time, or maybe it was August, I did my first video of my Japanese dappled willows, and at the time they were about 3 years old. And I think I remember, saying in my last video that these guys were absolutely low maintenance. And while I still think that that's true, I've come to discover that they take a little bit of pruning actually if you want to keep them like in their space without blocking out your other plants. But pruning, they take really well to pruning, and that's not something that you have to really worry about in terms of like damaging them or hurting them. Like willows are super resilient. So without further ado, let's go and take a look. I guess I'll start by showing you what this area used to look like 4 years ago, before I even started my garden. My grandma was visiting that year and she really helped me out a lot. And this is how small my Japanese dappled willow trees used to look like when I first got them. And in a couple of years' time, this is what you can have. As you can see, they have almost entirely filled up this space. The tree on the left is a twisted trunk, meaning that it came with 2 trunks intertwined, and the one on the right is a single trunk. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel that the one on the left is a little bit rounder and a little bit fuller compared to the one on the right. And in the same section, I have 2 more that are in a shrub form. My fence is 6 feet tall, and the shrubs are already growing taller than my fence. So I would say about 6 to 7 feet tall. The trees are standing at least like 8 to 9 feet tall, and they're probably going to grow like to 10 feet tall. So they're really coming along nicely. Japanese dappled willows like well-drained soil. When I was planting these guys and when I was digging the holes, I had to dig out a lot of big rocks. If your soil has a lot of big rocks in it, you want to make sure that you get those out. I don't have the best of soils. Like, I think I have pretty clayey, compacted soil, and I didn't really do a lot of amending to my soil. Maybe I added a little bit of maybe compost and soil amendments and maybe some pine bark, but that was pretty much it. So in terms of planting them, I think they're really easy. They're just easy to grow, but it just takes a little bit of maintenance. It's such a beautiful sight to look at. So in the summer, it really fills up this space and it blocks out undesirable views for me, like a lot. Like at the back here, I just have rows of houses that are not really pretty to look at, so I'd rather look at my Japanese dappled willows instead. But in the winter time, when they're all bare because they lose their leaves, this is what this area will look like. But they're one of the last trees to lose their leaves and one of the first to leaf out. I think they leaf out right around February, as early as February, and you can expect to see these little green buds on the red stems. So right around this time, or even before you start seeing the green buds, this is a good time for you to come out and start removing the dead and damaged stems. Removing some old growth or some dead stems actually helps promote new growth, so it's actually good to do that for the tree. But in terms of pruning these guys, it doesn't really need to be done only in spring. You can prune them any time of year. They take really well to pruning, and they are very resilient. I've come in here in the peak of summer and cut off some stems that were growing too long and too wild, or maybe hanging too low and blocking out sunlight from my other plants. Pruning in the summer just means that you're stopping them from growing anymore. Pruning in spring, it's kind of like you're rejuvenating growth and you're encouraging growth. Now let me show you this tiny Japanese dappled willow that I propagated last year. It's only about 6 inches tall right now. It's super tiny. I have quite a long fence. I have about, I think it's about 50 to 60 feet in length, and every say like 15 to 20 feet or so I would place a Japanese dappled willow shrub just to get some rhythm and repetition going in my yard. And there's another one that I also propagated, and I think this one I did it 2 to 3 years ago. So this is one of those plants that you just need to buy once and you don't have to spend money on them again, because they're so easy to make more. You just take some cuttings and stick them in soil and just make sure you keep that soil moist, and 90% of the time they'll take root for you. This is another area of my yard in the far corner. I like to place my willows among my other plants. I find that they work really well. As long as you give them about like 2 to 3 feet of space on each side, you'll be fine. You know, with these plants, no matter how big a space you give them, they will grow it out. Like they will fill up that space pretty quickly, and you will have to come back and you'll have to start pruning. So this is one of the younger ones that I propagated, but I'd like to show you how much more pink they look compared to the older plants. Let's take a look. Like, so the salmon pink is still there, the whites and the greens, but at the very tip you will see that it's like very bright pink, like true pink. I really like how it looks. I think it's really pretty. And that concludes my video update on my Japanese dappled willows going on year 4. This is one of my favorite corners of the garden, surrounded by these beautiful willows and some of my other flowers. I hope that this video is helpful to some of you that are thinking of getting them, or maybe you already have them in your garden and you'd like to see other people's Japanese dappled willows. Here are mine. Thanks for watching today, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye.